What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, a second game against the Boston Celtics, and this time it was not in our favor as we lose by a pretty significant margin in the end. What went wrong for the Chicago Bulls this time out? Well, I think you guys would already know the answer to that, but I guess it's time to repeat ourselves once again. I'll give you a hint. It's on the defensive end. But before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Bulls, their game today, your player of the game. That actually might be a difficult one to kind of give this time out, because we lose the game 123-98. The Bulls could not crack 100 points. This has felt like the first time in a while we couldn't crack triple digits, I should say. We couldn't crack the 100-point margin as we lose to Boston fairly comfortably. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this might be controversial here, but I don't think Boston necessarily played that terrific in this game. I mean, their bread and butter, the three-point line, they were still very cold in. In fact, we only made one less three than Boston, and we shot the same percentage from the three-point line. So, we were quite poor on the three-point line. They were equally as poor. It's as simple as that. The stats prove that. I think for the Bulls side of things, there was we didn't necessarily have a takeover guy. For example, in the last game that we played against Boston, Zach LaVine took over the game. 36 points in the game, was truly magnificent, highly efficient, and everybody else kind of had the game that they would normally have. Well, Zach LaVine today only had 14 points. With that being said, no one else stepped up to the plate to really have that takeover moment for the Chicago Bulls. I'm not saying people played poorly. Like Patrick Williams had 14 points in the last game. He had 14 points in this game. Vucevic had 19 points. Kobe had 14 points. Bazelis, 9. Phillips was 7. Lonzo only had 2 points in this time out. Taylor Horton-Tucker with 3 points. So instantly there, I'm wondering why. To be honest, he had 14 minutes. So I can't even complain about that. Basically, a lot of our guys scored. It just wasn't enough. We didn't score enough. We didn't have a guy to score over 20 points. No one on this Bulls team scored over 20 points in the game. We didn't have anybody that would take over for us. We just couldn't find that comeback, and we couldn't find that one guy that we really needed to step up. So in that way, you got to give credit to the Boston Celtics and their defense. We're pretty much shutting almost every one of our players down when it comes to the efficiency, when it comes to the takeover side of things. When you add on to that, Jason Tatum's 43 points, 10 assists and 16 rebounds in a triple-double effort. A huge response from Jason Tatum, who had 31 points, I believe, in that last game and ended up with 43-point triple-double in this time out. You're going to lose the game. If you give Jason Tatum a 40-point triple-double, you will lose. Don't ever think you would win a game where Jason Tatum's going to get a triple-double on you like that. Unbelievable effort from Jason Tatum. Huge response in the 36 minutes that he played. And you got to give respect where it's due. He's a terrific player. They're a terrific team. Sometimes things don't necessarily go your way. But I mentioned earlier in the video about the defensive end and how things are going to get a little bit more predictable. It's something we've talked about for a while. Well, I want to give you something that is going to hurt, but it's something that we all know. Points in the paint. That's how Boston won this game. They didn't win it from the three-point line. They didn't win it from, free throws or anything like that. They didn't win it from defensive rebounding or assists. They didn't win it from field goal percentage. They won it from points in the paint. 60 points in the paint. That is literally half their points in the paint. Just below half their points in the paint. That's excluding mid-ranges. It's excluding three-pointers. It's excluding free throws. Almost half their points were in the paint, 60. To the Bulls, 38 points in the paint. So that's a 20-point differential. We basically lost by just around 20 points. So do you understand where I'm coming from in this sequence? That's how we lost the game. We allowed Boston to get into the paint and get easy opportunities at the rim in which the Bulls couldn't counteract, nor could they provide enough points in the paint in their own right. We couldn't stop them, and we couldn't do it ourselves. So that, to me, is where the game was won or lost here. Sure, Jason Tatum's triple-double was fantastic, magnificent even. One of the best you will see. Sure, the Bulls didn't have a guy that could really step up to the plate and score when we needed them to. Sure, you could question almost every aspect of our game as to why we struggled so badly as we did. But points in the paint is where we lost the game. We allowed it to happen, and we couldn't score our own points in the paint. So the Bulls need to really reflect on this in the next time out. Look, I've seen improvements this week. Beating Boston the first time is a huge accomplishment. Beating the Raptors, having 2 wins in the week with 3 games, is a massive deal for the Bulls. We're only 3 games below 500. No one expected us to be in that current situation. So there are positives to take away, even with a disastrous loss like this. But you got to see improvement in the next game. This is nothing. This will mean nothing. The learning will mean nothing if you go and face your next opponents and you can see just as many points in the paint. It's always been a big problem for the Bulls. We are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. We do give up the most points in the paint. These are all statistical facts about the Chicago Bulls, but we need to start learning from it if we're ever going to get better as a team and if we're ever going to seriously make a stride to compete. I've heard a lot of people, even in my last video, say the Bulls are winning games. We need to keep on winning games. We need to try and get that playoff push. I hear you. If you want that to be what the Bulls want to be this season, that's up to you. Just like it's up to me as well. I personally would still go down the tanking direction. But that's just me. Regardless of how I feel and how you feel, if you want the Bulls to start competing, you need to learn how to protect the paint better than what we saw against Boston. Especially with the opponents that we have coming up next in the Milwaukee Bucks. They're going to be attacking the paint like no tomorrow. Not to mention they've also got 3-point shooters to back it up. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a two-edged sword there. You got to learn to stop both. We hold one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league down to a really poor percentage today and last game. You got to protect the paint too. It's as simple as that. Boston, a team that was often considered, I mentioned it in the last game reaction, doesn't have a plan B when their 3-point shots weren't falling. Today had their plan B, and their plan B worked to perfection. So the Bulls need to learn from this. With that being said, my player of the game is going to be Nikola Vucevic. 19 points, was the leading scorer, I believe, for the Bulls as well. I don't really think anyone came close to the contribution that he kind of provided in this timeout. A lot of guys had their 14 points and close, all right, they scored a couple of points. They didn't have a terrible game. But at the end of the day, Vucevic, to me, was the clear guy that stood out in that game. And I don't necessarily think it was that close. So that's my game reaction today, ladies and gentlemen. Can the Bulls learn from this? I guess we're going to have to figure it out against the Bucks. But fair play to Boston. I always have respect to the NBA champions. I think it's as simple as that. They're a good team. They are a good team now. 22-6 on their season. And to get a win over them, I think is a special accomplishment that we need to take under our belts. But losing in this way is also something you need to learn from. What do you guys think? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care. And peace.